read the title?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
read that title before.
Just let me go line. I be having them long ones too, man. Them long ones. That boy said you can't have no more than 100 characters. Damn. That's food, yeah.
Apology for lookership. I read the title.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me exit out of here. Let me go over here. Damn, I forgot to put. I'm gonna do it while we on here. Okay. Y'all help me share it too real quick. And then I forgot to add something to my damn slide. I'll do it though. And then look at this stupid stuff here. I don't want that. Then this won't even let me, hold on. I ain't trying to shoot my dumb self. Copy link. Y'all give us a few minutes. I'm trying to share the show. Dang. And then come join. Share groups real quick. Get some people in here. Damn, I'm hitting stuff I ain't supposed to be hitting. Oh, it sure did. I just hit. Oh, well. All right, I ain't sharing no more. Yeah. All right. Let me go back. Here. Put it in the DAX squad. All right, all right. Open to one more. Seshew. All right. Back over here. All right. Let me go right here, man, real quick, man. We're gonna jump into it. Those that come later on, come on. Peace, brother Zane. Peace, brother Zane. Share the show for me too, brother Zane, if you don't mind, man. All right. Let me go back here. Hell, I just ain't gonna do it. I was finna edit something live on here. We'll put something in here, but it's not important. All right, welcome to Kofi Piesie TV. I'm your brother Kofi Piesie. First, I want to say ETM Hotel. Dua. Hold on, let me get Shawn in here. All right, Shawn in here. First, I want to say ETM Hotel. Dua Aku. Dua Netcher. Fatmu Lafayette. Fatmu EY. Riwi. Majuba Iba Gungun. Majuba Iba Gungun. Majuba Iba Lakba. Majuba Iba Lakba. Igungun Kiki Igungun. I always want to give honor and praise to the ancestors, because without the ancestors, we wouldn't be here. We are our ancestors. I also want to give honor and praises to the true and living elders out there according to African tradition and culture, because I'm always looking at things from an African perspective. I got brother Sutekh, Mary Amen, Basa Nicolo Gullah, brother Sutekh, and brother Herit, Shawn Khalfani on the panel. Before we get started, do you brothers got anything before I jump into this presentation?
Yeah, peace to the family. Like and share the show as you come in. Get your pen and pad out and get ready to learn.
Peace to my brothers on the panel. Peace to the listening audience. Everybody put some smiles on and get ready to enjoy the information.
You got anything, Shawn? Mr. came in and walked away. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. Like the brother said, it's just me. Hit the like button. Share the show with those that you think that may be, may appreciate the information. Share it with whoever you may think that may appreciate the information, your colleagues, your family members, and so forth. Share my screen. I'm sharing my screen. I am sharing my screen. No, am I? Hold on, y'all. All right, yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Share. Let me know when y'all on the other end see my screen. Y'all. Can y'all see am I sharing on YouTube? Again, peace to everybody that's coming into the chat. T'Challa Bangara. Brother. Y'all, huh?
Hey, what book you got on libation?
Shit.
Kofi.
Hold on.
I need the book. Hurry up.
I seen one on Amazon, but I didn't buy it yet.
Ain't no magic. I don't know nothing about no. Oh, let me mute my mic.
Oh, yeah, I think this is one. Yeah.
What's that? What's the name of it?
Religion, rituals, and African traditions.
Misha. It's called what?
Religion, rituals, and African traditions.
That's the one that's in my cart on Amazon.
All right, okay.
All right.
All right. But not Vasa, but T'Challa, man. If go to the Kofi Piesie TV chat, man. I mean Facebook Messenger, man, and jump in, brother. But yeah, let's get started, man. Let me close out my thing, man. My camera. Cut my camera off. All right, today's presentation is called Why Black Americans Say They Are from the So-Called 5 Civilized Tribes, and who and were these civilized tribes. All right, this presentation, it was put together yesterday on the fly. This presentation is based around a conversation that me and my father had a few days ago. So again, the presentation is called Why Black Americans Say They Are from the So-Called 5 Civilized Tribes, and who were these civilized tribes? Hold on. Yeah. If T'Challa come in, y'all let me know, and I'll matter of fact, hold on before I even go to the next slide, y'all. Give me just a second before I go to the next slide. Let's see what I want to do with Shawn. See if I can do it. More. Yes. So Shawn, if he do pop in, or anybody else pop in, man, just promote him to the panel. You the co-host.
All right. I got you.
All right, let's go to the next. I always put a disclaimer out here before I get started. Disclaimer is I am not a teacher, but merely a student sharing information, and that information provided is for the educational purpose only. And if you are in doubt, do the research and have it verified by someone qualified. I reserve the right to change the focus of this presentation to shut down, sell, or exchange the terms or use at my own discretion. All trademark, design rights, copyright, registered names, mottos, logos, avatars, or signals or marks used or cited by this website or the property of their respective owners. I reserve the right to add information as it comes available in the future, adapt changes, improve information as it comes available in the future's input wanted changes, additions, deletions, or encouraged. I always had to put a disclaimer out there before I get started. And am I clear out there, y'all? Let me know, am I clear before I go any further?
You good?
All right. As I learned, we all learn. Those that follow me know that this is my saying. I believe in this saying. I believe it is a powerful statement. As I learn, we all learn. And this in here, let's get this culture. All right, first, before I get started with the presentation, I would like to say this presentation is not to disrespect anyone or any group. And I hope this information is helpful to someone trying to connect the dots and just try to get some understanding. This presentation was put together after a conversation me and my dad had via text message. My dad sent me a picture of my great grandmother this past Tuesday, February 11, 2020. And this was the first time I ever seen her and knew anything about her. And as I explained earlier, this presentation was put together because of a conversation and a picture that my father sent me a picture of my great great grandmother and the conversation that we had. So this presentation is kind of based around our conversation that we had. Family, I would like to introduce you all to my great grandmother. This here is a picture of my great grandmother. I had no clue of her. I had never asked, to be honest, but had no clue about her, who she were, what she did, or etc. This is my Pawpaw's mother here. This is my great grandmother, Pinky Henderson is her name. My father told me she is also Cherokee, and she is Caucasian as well. So like I said, this presentation is based around the conversation that me and my father had. So I'm gonna explain how a percentage of my DNA, the 0.8%, I guess he said it comes from her. She was Cherokee. But I was trying to also explain to my dad about why Black folks, it is particular few tribes, Native American tribes, that we always say we are, but there were other tribes. But we'll get into that later on in the presentation. And I was trying to explain, okay, I can believe that she was, she had Caucasian in her well. So I was trying to explain that as well in the conversation that we had. So Again, this is a presentation that's based around the conversation that my dad had that I found out about my great grandmother Pinky Henderson. All right, these are some of the PowerPoints. These are some of the bullet points that I'm going to be touching in this presentation. Where did the Native Americans / Indians come from? Were the Native Americans / Indians always in North America? I got North Americans, well, North America. What is the Native Americans / Indians ancestries according to DNA? How long Africans was around the Native Americans / Indians? Who is the 5 civilized tribes? Did Native Americans / Indians own African slaves? All right, Native Americans / Indians. From my research, the Native Americans migrated from East Asia to the Bering Straits or the Bering Land Bridge, which had formed between Northeast Siberia and West Alaska due to the lower of the sea levels during the last glacier maximum. The last glacier maximum, we're talking about the last ice age, 26,500 to 19,000 years before present. During their migration into Alaska, they were isolated for roughly 7,000 years. So those people who migrated from Asia, when we're gonna get into East Asia, we'll get into South Asia, we'll get into Eurasia. But those people who migrated, those people migrated into Siberia and to Alaska, say, which was 25 to 19,000 years before what's the name? This was the and they was isolated for 7,000 years. Remember, they was isolated for several thousand years due to the ice age or the last glacier maximum. According to Jeffrey Rice Science articles, who is a geneticist and who specialized in the study of human variations among contemporary and ancient populations, said that the isolation likely took place in the Bargina. Environmental reconstructions based on ancient plant remains taken from soil cores as well as computer temperatures models show that it was actually a relative descent place to live during the last glacier maximum. Large regions of the Bargines would have had warm temperatures than Siberia and shrub tundras and plants and animals available to support a sizable human population. So you had a group of people who migrated out of Eurasia, who migrated out of East Africa and went into the Bering Strait of the Barren Lands, right? And these people was isolated due to the ice age. So, and I'm not gonna we'll give a little bit further than we get into. At the end of the LGM, which the last glacier maximum of the ice age, we know there was during our time there was different uh, uh, a few ice ages. The temperature begins to rise, and the glaciers that cover North America slowly began to melt. The first people entered the Americas from the Barginas are thought to have done so shortly after a route opened along the west coast about 15,000 years ago. Okay, so just from these two slides and these two slides alone, we know that there was a group of people that came from Eurasia and came from East Asia. So, and later on, I don't have it in particular size, but maybe if we get in a little bit discussion, I'll show Eurasia and the countries that are in Eurasia and the countries of or who are the people in Eurasia, who are the people in East Africa. So we know there was a group of people who went into the Bering Land Bridge or the Bering Strait. They was migrating. And we know that at a particular time, this was the last glacier maximum. So North America was up under a sheet of ice. So there was no one in North America. So, you know, people say that the Native Americans or the Indians have always been in North America. That is untrue. At one particular time, North America was up under a sheet of ice. Here is the people coming out of Asia and Eurasia, these people that we are calling the Native Americans and or the Indians, these are the people coming out of Asia and Eurasia, and they're going into the Bering Strait. They're going into the Bering or the Virginia place between Siberia and Alaska. So these people was isolated here for a particular time due to the sheet of ice. They could not migrate into North America at this particular time because it was up under a sheet of ice. And after the ice begins to melt, these people that had been in this particular area between Siberia, Alaska, Russia, and so forth, had been there for several thousands, 7,000 years. You know, it was said that one group of people was isolated for a particular point when they got to the Virginia. I can't remember how many years that these Asians or these people that migrated from Asia um, in this particular place, they was isolated from everyone for a particular time. And then you had another group of people who came in and they began to add mixture with those people that was in what they call in Virginia. And again, after the ice age or the last glacier maximum began to melt, the sheet of ice began to melt. They began to migrate from Virginia, Siberia, Alaska, into North America and spread out in North America. So is the Native Americans / Indians Asian? So is the Native Americans and Indians Asian? Scientific evidence links Native American population to Asia and Eastern Siberia population. American Indians resemble some Asian populations in outward appearances, and the distribution of blood group types in the genetic compositions reflect the molecule data such as DNA. This is Cordell Palo-American. Stones and Dahis believe that the indigenous people that eventually populated the Americas occurred in 3 separate migrations. Yeah, they believe that the migrations into America was in 3 different ways. Most researchers think that the Native American roots lies in Asia, although exactly where is not clear, but a few have suggested Europe. And the silent minority view because today's Native Americans have clear Asian ancestry. So Native Americans have Asian ancestry according to DNA. They are not African, they are of Asian ancestry. It turns out that both may be right according to the latest ancient DNA evidence. A team based in Europe and in the United States sequenced the entire genome from a skeleton of a boy who lived in Siberia 24,000 years ago. Photo is on the side over here of the boy's bones. The oldest complete genome of a modern human to date. Surprisingly, the boy is closely related to both the Eurasians and the Native Americans, but not the East Asians. Hey, if anybody on the panel that don't mind, before I go any further, look up East Asia and look up Eurasia for me real quick, if anybody can do that. Because again, we're talking about a group of 2 different populations. You know, the current Native American or Indian that we call it comes from 2 different populations, the Eurasia and East Asia. So I'll wait till one of my brothers on the panel.
Well, to answer your question, Eurasia is just Europe and Asia together.
Okay, Europe and Asia. So Europe and Asia together. So you have Europeans and Asians, and then in East, and then you have East Asia. where
And
you
then you have the specific, you have the basically that's to sum it up. This Euro and Asia.
Okay.
They can go as far as to coming all the way over to like Italy and all that, and as
Yeah,
far as
they
India and the
yeah, they encompass everything except Africa when you say
right.
Eurasia.
Mm-hmm.
That whole other side of the hemisphere is Eurasia through their eyes, outside of Africa.
Okay. All right. Eurasia and Native Americans, but not East Asians. So the researchers think that the Native American ancestry with Eurasian roots might have interbreeded with East Asians sometime before making the journey over the barren land bridges to the New World. Like I was saying, those people migrated into the barren land bridge or the Bering Strait, and these people lived in between Siberia and Alaska. And the first wave of people, and it was 3 different waves they said that went into North America, but one particular group will say the East Asian was there and isolated from everyone for a particular time. Then you had another population that came in, and these people interbreeded together before they crossed the Bering Straits into the New World, or the so-called New World. Well, New World. The earliest record ever. Okay, so now that we have established the Native Americans or Indians have not always been in America. We know that North America was up under a sheet of ice at one particular time. No one was there. And
Hey,
we know,
Kofi,
go ahead.
to give clarity to what you're saying about the sheet of ice was a mile long vertically. So if somebody want to consider what a mile is, you had a mile thick layer of ice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so a group of people went into the Bering Straits or the Bering Land Bridges, and they were in Siberia or Alaska at these particular times. This group was isolated from everyone. Then another population came in. These people interbreeded before the last glacier maximum melted, and they went into what we call North America. We also know that they are of Asian ancestry. Now, the earliest records of evidence of blacks in Florida dates back to 1513, related to the Spanish exploration and settlement of Hispaniola. During the time, Spain declared exclusive sovereignty over the land from Florida Keys to the Newfoundland and west to Mexico. In 1526, the Spanish settlement San Miguel de Guadalupe near the present-day Sapelo Sound, Georgia, was Ostland, the first colony with a number of African slaves. So the first earliest.
Stop, Kofi. Stop, Kofi. When they left, the Spanish wound up leaving. They leave the Africans there. So some historians note right after that this may have been your first long-term settlers outside of the Native Americans in North America. Mm-hmm. So if you want to brag anything, you can brag that you've been here longer than Europeans, time-wise, but you can't brag that you're the Native Americans themselves. And San Miguel de Guadalupe is one of those places we can look at. Mm-hmm. And then roughly about 100 years later, you have the largest slave plantation cemetery to date that's been found, to the best of my knowledge, found in Barbados. And you can make a distinction that these are not quote unquote Native Americans, these are African people there. I think it's somewhere they said like 40,000 people was there. Africans. And that's 1600, y'all. So just think about these numbers.
Yeah. So again, the earliest evidence about blacks in Florida dates back to 1513. Born into Spanish nobility, Juan Ponce de Leon, 1416 to 1521, may accompany Christopher Columbus in his 1493 voyage to the New World. A decade later, he was serving as a governor of the eastern province of Hispaniola when he decided to explore a nearby island, which became Puerto Rico. In pursuit of the rumored fountain of youth located in the islands known as Bimini, Ponce de Leon led an expedition to the coast of what is now Florida in 1513. Thinking it was the island he sought, he sailed back to colonize the region in 1521, but was fatally wounded in an Indian attack soon after his arrival. So he made it there in 1513. Juan Ponce de Leon. He made it there searching for a fountain of youth. He ran into Florida. He left and he came back in 1521. So how long we were around the Native Americans? Now the first early documents of us being here was in 1513. From 1526 till the Maroon community at Fort Moss in 1739, which was about 200 and 213 years. So we're talking about when he came back to colonize and they brought African slaves with them. And we know a lot of people know about Fort Moss. We know about St. Augusta. And we'll talk about a little bit more about Fort Moss and we'll talk a little bit more about St. Augusta. And we know that Florida had, not Florida, but Spain, the Spanish had Florida. Approximately 100 Africans lived in Fort Moss, forming more than 20 households. Together, they created a frontier community which drew on a range of African background blended with Spanish, Native Americans, and English. Community was legally sanctioned by the Spanish government, making it the first free African settlement in the legal existence in the United States. Somebody had some?
Yeah, Kofi. Add Fort Negro to the list. That was a picture I sent to the inbox. I was going to bring that up later in the chat. But while you got Fort Mose, you also got, if I'm not mistaken, I think Fort Mose is further south on the east coast of Florida. And then you got Fort Negro that's north west in Florida. And those was taking place simultaneously.
I don't know about Fort Negro.
Yeah, Fort Negro, I believe, was given to blacks solely from the British. So you got Fort Negro. Yeah, and that's why Andrew Jackson was riding so hard to get everybody out of there. Because you got Fort Negro forming, and you got Fort Mose, you got slaves running through there to escape. Then you got Haiti that just became independent, and you got all these things where you're fighting constantly to maintain your culture, your freedom, your humanity, all taking place right there. And it's through my eyes, it's this that leads to the Trail of Tears. But I don't want to start speaking too soon, so go ahead, Kofi.
All right. By the time Fort Moss became an official town, St. Augusta had already earned the reputation of being a safe haven for runaway slaves. Thus, August of 1739, word from Indian allies in the nearby areas reached Martino, confirming that the British had attempted to erect a fort in the Apache region, northwest of St. Augusta. But the blacks revolted, murdering all the whites, and escaped. These runaways days later would seek directions to the Spanish from Native Americans they met in the wooded areas in Florida. Fort Moss quickly became known as a center of the black freedom for runaways in a village and a new convert, as all residents received some type of Catholic instruction. So we have been introduced or been around the Native Americans for a long time. Spain, not the Spanish who had Florida, they made these free towns because they wanted to keep an allies. They wanted to keep the Africans as allies with them, as well as the uh, Native Americans, um, to fight against British. Because if you look at this particular time, you see that Britain was always trying to fight Spain uh, to gain Florida, and eventually they did later on um, get Florida, but didn't last too long. Maybe 15 or 20 years they had it, then Spain took it back over, but this was later on time. But the that again, it was because they was trying to get allies, so they made these free towns for the Africans to reside, or these runaway slaves to reside in. And you can see later on, after we was encountered for 213 years, um, from 1526 till um, about the 17 no 15 no 1513 or no 1526 to about 1726 till you get to Fort Moses. And then we was around them a little bit more later when you start to see that a mixture of other runaway slaves from Georgia and South Carolina began to uh, run away and run into the Florida region. So you had a mixture of other different Africans coming from Georgia and South Carolina, who would become what they would call, which become an offshoot of off what they call the Seminole tribes, the Black Seminoles, which would be the Gullah people. We know that the Gullah people are a mixture of different African groups. We know that these Gullah Geechee people were um, kidnapped for a particular reason because they had a particular skill set. So they was Sierra Leone and Liberia. Liberia um, was a place strategized for them to come get these particular Africans because they had a particular skill set. And the geographical location in Liberia and like Sierra Leone, Liberia was the same as these places, these sea coasts in Florida, and in South Carolina. And these runaway slaves went into uh, Florida. You know what I'm saying? They was in the woods. These, they created these Maroon communities and etc. They cohabitated and lived around a lot of these Native American tribes, because you had to also say that at this particular time you had a lot of Native Americans that was also fighting as well. Great Plain Indian tribes. So we're going to get into, and I'm going to get into some of these tribes because, again, when we talk about us being around a lot of Native Americans, we've been around the Native Americans for a long, long, long time. And when we get to most of the talk, we always say, man, we got an Indian in our blood. Man, my family say we got Indian in blood. We this, we that. And it's only a few names that we are always calling. So I'm gonna give a rundown of a lot of other tribes and why we're not saying or we saying we got blood we Indians, or we Native Americans, or our family say we Native Americans. Why they never name none of these other tribes, but they name some of these few particular tribes over and over. And we're gonna get into that why in a minute. But the Great Plain Indian tribes, were situated in the present states of Iowa, Kansas, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota. These were some of the tribes: the Apaco tribe, the Kayeni tribe, the Gross Ventura, the Khoi tribe, the Osage tribe, Blackfoot tribe, Crow tribe, Akiri tribe, Comanche tribe, Adasa tribe, Mendi tribe, OT, and I'm pronouncing them. I know I'm pronouncing them wrong, so please excuse the mispronunciations. The Shani tribe, the Kasa tribe, the Palka tribe, the Asibini tribe, the Cree tribe, the Iowa tribe, Missouri, the Pawnee tribe, the Sioux tribes, the Omaha tribe. You had the Great Basin Indian tribes. The land occupied by many of the Great Basin Indian tribes consisted of the barren wastelands and deserts, salt lakes, and brackish lakes in the states of Idaho, Oregon, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, Montana, the shelters of house of the Indian, the Banaka tribes, the Ute tribes, the Gohoot tribes, the Wahoo tribes, the Paiute tribes, the Shohone tribes, and again, I am mispronouncing some of these names. California Indian tribes. The California Indian tribes live in the mild temperature climates of California, encompassing coastal regions, rivers, and lakes. The tribes lived in various types of housing shelters, including grass mat houses, kitsch houses, cedar bark lodges, redwoods, plank houses, and semi-subterranean pit houses and earth lodges. You have the Shamash, the Pomo tribe, the Wuntun, the Medew, the Sarano tribe, the Yani tribe, the Mojav tribe, the Shasta tribe. Wow, the Shasta tribe. That's my ex-wife's and my son's mother's name, Shasta tribe, Yumi tribe, Miwok tribe, and Wapu tribe. Northwest Pacific Coastal Indian tribes. Northwest Pacific Coastal Indian tribes lived in the present-day states of Oregon and Washington. The Balakula, the Kolitz tribes, the Talent, what is that? Talent tribe, Coastal Salish tribe, the Chinook tribe, the Catalamic tribes, the TC Masha tribe, Flathead Native Indians, the Clatsop tribe, the Hada tribes, the Wahkakun tribe, and again, excuse me for the mispronunciations. Plateau Indian tribes. The Plateau Indian tribes inhabited North Oregon, Southeast Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montego. The Plateau tribes lived in the Tula mat lodges and also lived in semi-subterranean pit houses, earth lodges. You got the Cayuse tribes, the Palos tribes, the Corelline, the Spakan tribes, the Madak tribes, the Walla Walla, the Nas Pierce, the Yakama. This is the Plateau Indians. Northeast Woodland Indian tribes. The land inhabited North Woodland Indian tribes attended mainly across the New England states, Lower Canada, west to Minnesota, north of Iowa River. They typically lived in sheltered birch park longhouses and wigwams, and they traveled in either birch parks or dog hawk canoes. You got the Benik, and I'm not finna keep pronouncing a lot of these tribes. I just keep it paused here for a few minutes, and I'm going over all these different tribes for a reason. So here are all these other different tribes. These are from the Northeast Woodland Indian tribes. Then you have the Southeast Indian tribes. The South Indian tribes were located in the states of Louisiana, Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Florida. So here are the tribes. Here are the Southeast Indian tribes right here. And again, they are located in Louisiana, Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Florida. Indian tribes. The Arctica Indian tribes were located in the present day Alaska, Canada, Greenland, and they lived in igloos and Barbados. Southwest Indian tribes. The Southwest Indians tribes were located in the states of Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, and Texas. So here are those tribes. Here, the Apache, the Pima tribe, the Hapa tribe, the Zunu tribe, the Navajo tribes, the Pueblo tribes, the ancient people. The following articles provide facts and information about the ancient people referred to as mound builders and the Anansi people, or whatever they are, Anasazi, cliff dwellers, and mound dwellers. So these are all
I'm familiar with them, Kofi.
which ones?
The Anasazi.
Oh, ish. Okay.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them.
They from where?
They from over there in the Southwest. That's where a lot of the mounds and stuff at.
Yeah.
Like I said, they was living in them cliffs and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the states up there.
They up there, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, Texas, and Arizona.
Yeah, that's where we find a lot of them cave paintings at too.
Yep. So I just wanted to run down a list, and the list can go on of tribes that existed over here in North America.
Hey, Kofi, did you do any in the Midwest?
I think I did. My
bad.
And you have the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Creek, and the Seminole. And these so-called 5 civilized tribes are the groups that most of us that says that we have Native American in us. My family say we came from this tribe, and and I hadn't heard nothing different. But most Black people say they either come from Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole. The most popular are the Cherokee and the Choctaw. Those are Cherokee and the Choctaw. And I made a excuse the error. I got Greek up here at the bottom. It's supposed to be Creek. You can see the seal, the Cherokee Nation, the Great Seal of the Chickasaw Nation, the Great Seal of the Choctaw Nation, the Great Seal of the Musqueam, which is the Creek Nation, the Great Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. So these are the 5 civilized tribes, and these are most of what we'll say, man, I come from the Chickasaw tribe, I come from the Creek, Cherokee. And why is that? Why no one ever say that they come from any of these other different tribes, from these other different tribes? So why just only these 5 tribes out of hundreds of Native American tribes called civilized? The 5 civilized tribes. The term 5 civilized tribes came into and used during the mid-19th century to refer to the Cherokee, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Creek, and the Seminole Nation. And we know that the European said that they said the same things, the same things that they said about the Africans, they said about the Native American. They were savages, they was primitive, they was uncivilized. But these 5 tribes, they said was civilized. Why did the Europeans say that these groups out of the hundreds of other tribes, the other tribes were savages? They was beasts. You know what I'm saying? They was primitive, and so forth. But they was uncivilized. They was barbaric, and so forth. But these Europeans said that these particular groups, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and the Creeks and the Seminoles, and these people that they call 5 civilized tribes, this was before 1820. No, this was before 1830 and 1820, before the Indian Removal Act, and before later on, I think in the 1840s, when you get to the Manifest Destiny. But the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and the Creek, and the Seminole Nation. Although these Indian tribes had various cultural, political, and economic connections before removal of the 1820s and the 1830s, the phrase was mostly wide used in the Indian Territory of Oklahoma. Somebody got their mic unmuted. Somebody got something?
That was me, my bad. I apologize about that.
Oh, I thought you, okay. Americans and sometimes American Indians called the 5 southeastern nations civilized because they appeared to assimilate to the Anglo-American norms. The terms indicated the adoptions of the horticulture and other European cultures, patterns, and institutions, including widespread Christianity, written constitutions, centralizing government, intermarriages with white Americans,
marketed participant literature, animal husbandry, patrilineal descendants, and even slave holding, and even slave holding, and even slave holding, and even slave holding, and even slave holding. None of these attributed characteristics, all of the nations or all of these citizens that they encompass. The terms was also used to distinguish these 5 nations from other so-called wild Indians who continue to rely on hunting for survival. So the Europeans deemed these groups to be civilized and term the 5 civilized tribes. And you can see this all in other, other documentations. You know what I'm saying? This term made other dockets, 5 civilized tribes. And they deemed these people to be civil, these tribes, the Indian tribes to be civilized because these tribes began to adopt the European cultures. So they converted, they left their way of life and they converted to Christianity. They set up their constitutions and their governments like the European. They began to intermarry with white Americans. Then you can see why, my great grandmother also has Caucasian in her as well. Her family, it was okay to marry a Native American to marry a white American now.
Kofi,
It was
on that Kofi, on that part, drive this in. They was marrying Native American women because they was what? Matrilineal.
right.
So in order for them,
but they
yeah,
changed. But these tribes changed though. They changed the patrilineal. It was a match. Go ahead. But I'm with you. But they changed. These groups, they changed. They was no longer matrilineal. They became a patrilineal society because we know most Europeans is a patrilineal society. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say right there in your region. I don't know how close, but what about in the 1600s and the 1700s when you had the Cherokee and not Cherokee, Choctaws aligning themselves with the French and going to war with the Natchez right there in Mississippi as they trying to get access to the land.
Yep.
Do they align against their own people? How much does that classify them as civilized through these European eyes?
I'm with you.
But
I'm
I
right
wanted,
there.
I want to throw this out to the audience though, and I want y'all to notice and notice clearly. When they came here, they still treated these people with far more respect than they showed you initially. They couldn't put them in slavery unless somebody from their tribe sold them over. They had laws stipulating everything to treat these people as human beings. This goes back to De La Casas and that the institution they set up for Native American rights. I can't remember what they call it. But all these things play a factor to what you see in the formulation of the United States during the colonial period and what Kofi's talking about. You got to factor all these things into the audience. But I want y'all to really walk away with this. Legally, they weren't even allowed to put these people in slavery. And they made contracts with them from day one. In order for them to maintain their humanity, they had to always make sure that we was treated as inhuman. They was introducing us into slavery to them from the get-go. They was maintaining their humanity, use them where they could, step on them where they could. We know this historically, but they did not treat each group the same. So running around calling ourselves elbows, we really, really need to be careful about this. But go ahead, Kofi. I ain't want to take that long.
You good, and I'm familiar with what you're talking about too. I'm only 40 minutes away from Natchez. I was just in Natchez. What was that? 2 weeks ago, I was in Natchez. I drove up there to get a oil change from up there at a dealership, Dodge dealership. But yeah, I'm familiar with it. But yeah, so these guys adopted to Christianity, and again, they set up their constitutions and centralized their government. Like the European, they began to intermarry. The Native Americans began to intermarry with white Americans. You know, they was a patrilineal society, and then they not a matrilineal society, but these groups became a patrilineal society. And even when you look at us being around the Native Americans, you know, fighting with the Native Americans, when we look at the first Seminole War, uh, and then the second Seminole War became ours because it became more personal to us. Our freedom became personal, and veiled to that, introduced to the Native Americans through Spain coming in the early 1513, 1526, up to setting up Fort Moss, and then Vasa said Fort Negro. This was simultaneously. You know, Saint Augusta being the free town for African people, or runaway um, for runaway slaves. And by us having communities or living amongst the Native Americans, they was a matrilineal society. So if I'll give you an example. If I was there and I married I wouldn't be considered a member of that Native American tribe because I married a Native American woman. I wouldn't be considered a part of their a member of their tribe. But if we had a child, then my child, my daughter or my son would be a member of whatever this tribe would call, because it was a matrilineal society. But if my sister married a Native American man, and my sister would not be a member, and that child would not be a member as well, because even though she married a Native American woman, but the child did not come through the womb of a Native American, so that child wouldn't even be considered a member as well. So that's what I mean by matrilineal. They was a matrilineal society. When we mixed with them, only way you could be a member is if it was through the womb of a Native American. So if a male, go ahead.
Was it always like that?
From what I study, has always been like with us intermingling with the Native American. It always been like that in order for you to be recognized. And it might have changed, but at this particular time, you was not considered a member. No matter who you married or what tribe you married into, you wasn't considered a member. Your child will be considered a member if you married a woman, a Native American woman, and that Native woman gave birth, then that child will be a member of that particular tribe, but you still wouldn't be. And then if your sister married that Native American man and they had a child, that child wouldn't be considered a member because it did come through the womb of a Native American woman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kofi,
you remember me?
that up was because I know the Hebrews like to say that the Native Americans are a tribe, but if you study the Native American and their history, they're matrilineal. I know the Hebrews, they like to say it's through the father, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so the only way to be Hebrew is through the father. So that kind of kills that notion that and I forget what tribe they say the Native Americans are, but yeah, they like to say the Native Americans is Hebrews too. So just wanted to put that out there for the people.
I'm just catching on what you're saying. What? Yeah.
You follow me now?
I'm following exactly what you're saying, because yes, that is their statement. The only way you can be a Hebrew is through the father. So they're a patrilineal society. So the only way, but we know that the Native Americans was a matrilineal society. They wasn't that you don't get the patrilineal. They don't become patrilineal until these 5 tribes adopt to the European way of life. This when they change everything up. They stopped practicing whatever they was practicing, invoking whatever they was invoking, and they became Christians. They started marrying white folks. They started setting up their government and their constitution, just like the European and so forth. And they began to owned slaves. But we'll get into that. We're gonna talk about that too a little bit too. But what you had?
And I ain't want to. There wasn't no shot. I wasn't throwing no shot at the Hebrews.
Yeah.
I'm just comparing data. Hold on. I'm just comparing data. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the facts.
Yep.
And just putting it out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
No,
I never would have thought
Kofi,
about that until you said something. I forgot they do say that the Native Americans are Hebrews too, and according to their chart, they is, I don't know which one it is, but
hey, Kofi, on that, this is how, remember the story I was telling you about Pompey Factor and Isaac Payne and John Ward and how they received the Medal of Honor.
mm-hmm.
They literally received the Medal of Honor because of what you're talking about. Their lieutenant was a white man named John Bullis. He marries into a Seminole tribe. Now, in this tribe, there are Black African people there. But because this white man married into one of their women, they were bound to protect him. One day out in battle, he gets knocked off of his horse, and it's the three Black men who ideologically identifying themselves as Seminole protect him. And because they did that, they was rewarded the Medal of Honor, but they couldn't stand the man.
Yeah.
But that's how sincere they was to their people and taking care and the morals and the ethics of their culture. And these are things we brought in, like this, how Kofi pointed out, the second Seminole was really more geared towards us.
Mm-hmm.
I would still say, yeah, we was a big part of the first one. But what Kofi is trying to tell y'all is we had to start fighting with the Indians after that point and maintain the battle of not getting pushed out of there. And you got to keep that in. And these relationships are, I don't want to say toxic, but they not as pretty as this Hollywood imagery that we're hearing floating around today. We didn't just link up with them and get along. A lot of the times we stayed separate from each other.
Yep. I talk about that in my Black Seminole presentation and the Black Seminoles who escaped the slave plantation presentation. Those two presentations I talk about that as well. Yep. So the term is used to distinguish these 5 nations from other so-called wild Indians who continue to rely on hunting for survival. So, so that just breaks it down right there, why these people was called to fight, why the Europeans, out of all these other tribes, call these tribes civilized. Because they turned their back on their own way of life and they adopted to the European way of life. The term civilized has historically been used to distinguish the 5 tribes from other Native American groups that were formerly often referred to as wild or savage. Written by non-indigenous scholars and writers have used words like savage and wild to identify Indian groups that retain their traditional group culture practiced after European contact. So again, these people was deemed civilized by the European because they turned their backs on their own culture and tradition and adapted the practices of the European. And this is just a painting at the bottom of Cherokee, Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and a Seminole. This is a portrait, a drawing painted in 1775 to 1850. Go ahead.
Before you close out on this topic of what got them classified as civilized and them turning their back on their culture, another big, and this is a big component to it, is they switched from not just their modes of production, but their worldview switched as well, because they went from ownership of a collective to individual ownership, which was a European thing. It wasn't we own this land and we are, everything is ours. It started becoming individual, that this is mine. Now this human being is mine. Now the tribe is mine. They're slowly becoming, for lack of better terms, white people.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to be rude, but let's just call it for what it is. They're emulating the white people in charge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And didn't care about putting the trigger to their own kind.
Yep. What we doing now?
Hey, can I ask some of you brothers? First
Go
of all,
ahead.
peace to the panel.
Yeah,
Peace to everybody.
Chala Bangara.
What's going on with y'all?
What's happening, brother?
Nothing much. I just want to make a note of, since we're discussing this identity crisis that we seem to have as Black people. You know, from times of antiquity into now, we can see that if we look at history in between these times of from what we're talking about now to modern day to, with the numerous invasions into Africa, there has been a distinct marker put on who we are as African people on this planet. And everybody else that has been trying to come in and take and emulate and copy and duplicate what and who, where, when, and why we are. The world has known who we are, has always known. And they make sure that they distinguish themselves from us. And this is not me making this up. This is exactly what's being proven through the presentation. And we can just look around and see that. Our neighborhoods are separate and distinguished. And so even in the conversation with the quote unquote Native American tribes, as we generally call them, they knew who we were as the kidnapped victims of the African hustle, the greatest enterprise known to man, really, the most profitable business known to man.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Kidnapping Africans and bringing them to the Western Hemisphere. There's always been a distinction of who we are as African people. And we're the ones running around here not knowing who we are. I just kind of wanted to really get people to think about that as well. Like, everybody else knows who we are, but we seem to still not to this day even know who or what we are.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, T'Challa, I literally told my sister this morning, they all want to do our dances, but none of them want to wear our shoes.
Word. For real.
Yeah. All right. Africans, Americans from a colonial period until the United States Civil War. The interaction between Native Americans and African slaves in the antebellum United States is complex, given slavery played a significant role in the creation of and construction of America. This slavery institution relied largely on the enslaved of Africans and Native Americans owned by white European colonists and later white Americans after the United States gained independence from the Great Britain. Although chattel slavery was a primary European institution in the Americas, a few North American indigenous groups over time adopted slave ownership for several purposes, predominantly as a tactic to assimilate into European colonial society. Most of the indigenous tribes who participated in this practice resided in the Southeast, where the white European infrastructure thrived off slave ownership. Specifically, the 5 civilized tribes, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and the Creek, and the Seminoles. Following the Indian Removal Acts of 1830, these tribes relocated to a territory present day. So we know that during the Indian Removal Act in 1830, under the President Andrew or whatever, the President Jackson, they moved to Oklahoma. And they took their slaves with them. Those 5 civilized tribes took their slaves with them. Again, those 5 civilized tribes adopted to the way of life of the European, and they also owned slaves. They mirrored the European. And after they was removed from Florida, they went into Oklahoma and they took their slaves with them. Now, from my studies, the most worst out of all of those so-called 5 civilized tribes were those of the Creek. I have read in the past when I was doing my Gullah Geechee series those 5 different series that I did on the Gullah Geechee. I studied the Creek, studied all of them pretty good, but it's about 2 years ago, and just some of my studies and me remembering that the Creek was like one of the worst ones out of all of them, even when they got to Oklahoma. And the Black Seminoles, which is an offshoot of the Gullah people who revolted and escaped those sea islands in Georgia and South Carolina and went into Florida and became the Black Seminoles. They, once they got to Oklahoma, you can see the Creek mistreated those uh, uh, people that called themselves the Black Seminoles, which was a mixture. Again, the Gullah Geechee people are a mixture of different African tribes. You know, you got the Mende, you got the Bassa, you got the Kuno, you got the Kissi, you got the Timni, and so forth. You can see it as you study the Gullah Geechee culture. But they also had the Khan, Igbo, and so forth. It was a mixture of different African groups. So the Creeks treated them very badly once they got to Oklahoma. And even up here, you hear that it says the Native Americans from the colonial period up into the United States Civil War, the interaction between the Native Americans and the African slaves, where they owned slaves up until the Civil War. Everybody know about the Civil War, the North going against the South. North freed the slaves first, and then after the Civil War, officially in 1865, slavery was officially was so-called officially over. So the owning of slaves was banned or outlawed. But studying the Creek, these Creek tribes had a problem with giving up their slaves during this particular time. And I wish I knew, and I got a document somewhere where it was stating where the Creeks was fighting, man, to keep their slaves. And the United States was telling them that they had to let their let their slaves go. God, I wish I could have. I wish I got it.
It's all 5 of them. And what happens is they send one of their military cats down here to Oklahoma. I don't know if he was stationed in Fort Smith or Fort Sill. They send him down here, and he's supposed to be negotiating these contracts of what are y'all. First, we got to announce to the audience that all 5 of the tribes wasn't trying to relinquish their slaves. What they do is they send a man down here. Give me just a second, I'll find his name. But what they do is they send him down here. He's supposed to negotiate this contract. He doesn't want to do it. So the very moment where it looks like things are okay, he tells DC, everything is clear. They worked it out. Let's go. But nothing gets resolved at all. This is why still to this day, you got the freedmen's fighting for those rights. And this was taking place over, I want to say from 1865 to about 1868. This was really, really heavy politically. Go ahead and keep building and give me a second to find this because I got to go through my notes and I'll give you his name. I got this stuff word for word, the contracts and everything. I'll send that to you later on today.
Okay. Yeah, but that's it, man. I mean, that's it, man. These are my sources right here, man. And again, this presentation was put together not to insult anyone or to insult any group. It was, go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt the presentation at all, but I did want to wait till you got to the end. Stop apologizing, brother. You are not insulting anyone by telling the truth. The disrespect and the insult comes from that which believe the lie or propagate the lie on one when truth stands or exists. So when someone is sitting there and they continue to interject a lie on us, that's the insult. But when you're dealing with truth and when you're trying to get to the matter of the truth, man, what you apologizing for?
I just be, man,
No, don't laugh at me, man.
You know me. I just be trying not to.
The truth don't care if you blind, crippled, crazy, stupid, smart, none of that. The truth don't care about nobody's feelings.
You right. It don't. It'll hurt you. It'll hurt you.
So quit subjecting me to apologies because you want to provide truth. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you. You know, but I just don't be, I just don't be wanting people saying I'm attacking them, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and that clearly wasn't what I was trying to do. I was just trying to lay out the truth and explain a few little things and get some understanding. Because again, like I said, this presentation, was put together on the fly, and it was based around a conversation that me and my dad had via text message.
Well, you tell your dad, we understand.
Oh no, he's not. I mean, no. It was no. He when we was talking. I mean, he wasn't insulted or offended.
Oh, okay.
He's
green to it. Offend you.
Yeah, no. He's green to it. He's green to it. So this was like, okay, I was trying to explain certain things when he showed me the picture. You know what I'm saying, of my great grandmother, Pinky Henderson. He's saying she was, she was Caucasian and she was Cherokee. So I said, okay, I can believe that. And then looking at the picture, you know what I'm saying, and looking at the picture, I said, okay. And then he got to telling me about her and so forth. And I was like, okay, I can believe it. So I got to explain to him about why most of us say that we are Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Seminole, or Creek. And then I was explaining to him, okay, that the Native Americans, these people that the Europeans, out of all these other groups deemed to be civilized, they began to marry white women. You see what I'm saying? So, and I just got to explain a bunch of stuff. Then I got to saying, okay, but these people weren't already, no, they wasn't always here. These people came from somewhere. So I just said, it'll be good to just put a presentation together because he's not the only one that doesn't know a lot of this information. So I just thought it would be a good presentation to put together and try to explain where did these people come from, who are these people, what ancestry background are these people, who are these other tribes that we never talk about, you know what I'm saying? Where did they, where did these tribes spread in North America? Where did this term 5 civilized tribes come from? Why were the European calling these only 5 groups civilized and the rest of these people savages and wild and beast and untamable, you know what I'm saying? All these horrendous, all these different horrendous names. So I said, okay, let me just put some and show that these people also, these 5 civilized that adopted the way of life of the European, they also own slaves, and also show that, when the first documentation of us being here in 1513, the first, the punch guy coming into Florida, you know what I'm saying? And we had been around them before Fort Moss and Fort Negro. We've been around a Native American, and we had been around them for 213 some years, and a little bit afterwards, after other slaves started escaping and coming to Florida, and then pushed into Oklahoma. So I just thought it'd be
Hey, Kofi, what you just said, can somebody share that illustration out the inbox from the group chat? Because what you just said is the reason I wanted to share it with the people. I want to show them something.
All right, I'll stop showing my.
I'm on my phone, otherwise I would do it.
All right. Anybody gonna do it, or y'all want me to go in the inbox and get it?
It's that illustration one, the drawing.
Hold on. You just put it in there?
Yeah, when we started earlier today.
Man.
You can share that.
Outside TV, Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, it's in there.
You talking about the picture?
I sent the picture of my grandpa. You can share that. If
Yeah,
people
yeah,
want
I
to see
got it
that.
in there. I got it.
You
Right.
can share. You can share that one. I'll tell the story. Um,
Okay.
but the actual illustration where it's showing the
I don't see that in. I got the picture, but this picture is pretty big, Bossa. And it's
okay,
got the search for Sam on the
okay.
front of it.
Don't use that one.
Yeah.
Let me see. Uh,
Hold on, let me go back over here. Let me look. Yeah, hold on. I might be able to share this and this in here. This and let me see what it's gonna do. Okay, yeah, I got it. I got it. I got it. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Let me share my screen.
yeah, you should have that picture in there.
Yeah,
It
I
should be
got
right
it. I
underneath.
was looking at
Okay.
mine and not the Facebook Messenger one. Shoot. All right. Here it is. Let me know when you're sharing.
Okay, I'm looking at the my phone. I see that picture. But did you get the painting down there? From
I
did you
don't
see that underneath it? It should have been a painting underneath that one.
oh no, let me know if my screen sharing though.
I see it on here in our chat. I don't see it on
Okay,
YouTube.
it's
I
on there.
just see it.
I'll find the painting in a minute. If it's still in there. I can't do nothing now while I'm sharing screen.
Okay. Now to the audience, the picture y'all see, the gentleman before you, that's not an Indian. That's the result of a slave master raping a young black girl and producing him. This is my grandfather on my mother's side. Their entire life, they grew up thinking they was white and Indian. And I was telling Kofi earlier, I've been called you filthy black ass nigga so many times by my grandmother before she passed away. I grew numb to it. Only for in her last days to find out the one she treated the worst out of all her grandbabies was the only one there for her in the end. And have to apologize for all the racial shit that went on in our life between me and her. That's how ill this stuff is. And that's how misconstrued and how lost a lot of people are, not just African people. A lot of us got damaged by this. So, we really, really do have to be careful about what we're doing out here. But the other picture is the one I really, really wanted to show because it can show Africans of that time in the different walks of life that they had, but they still was forming together and knowing who they was and what they was up against. You're gonna see them in French garments. You're gonna see them in British garments. You're gonna see them in Native American garments. You see a brother in what looks like what you would see a pirate dressed in. That's a buccaneer. And all this is the results of so many, I don't want to say transactions, but that was what was taking place. We're being shipped off. We're being traded from place to place. Constantly. You might wake up in Cuba and go to sleep in Florida only to get shipped to Tennessee, only to get shipped to another place. So there's going to be missing parts to our story. We're going to have people who's marrying into other groups of people, but that don't mean we have to fabricate anything to tell our story. And a lot of this stuff is painful, but if you go in deeper and you find the stuff they don't talk about, that's where you're going to find how beautiful African men and women really are and how much you contributed to building this Western hemisphere. You take your black ass out the picture, none of this exists. Period. So I don't want to get too off track.
I'm gonna show this painting. Let me know when it's up.
Oh yeah, I see it on my phone now, so it should be a second on the YouTube.
I don't see it yet.
Like I had no clue until last week. Every time my grandma said, check your feet for chiggers before you walk in this house, she was saying an African word. That chiggers comes from Africa. I had no clue about that.
Check your what now?
Chiggers. You know, we country people, so we get chiggers. They may not get them up there in New York City, they little fancy selves. But them chiggers we get when we out in the grass and whatnot, chiggers is an African word. I had no clue about that. And it's little bitty things like that that we don't appreciate. But when you start adding them up, you see how much you contributed to this existence. Now, this picture before y'all, just look at how these brothers are dressed. They never lost track of the brotherhood during that time. You got some that might be speaking French. You got one that might, due to circumstances, the only thing he can speak is a Creek dialect. Then you're gonna have this depiction. I seen somebody ask. That's a depiction of what they think Fort Negro would have looked like. And I can't remember if it was Fort Mose or Fort Negro, but it was a cannonball shot from a river that destroyed them. So this might be depicting that right before they destroyed the base.
Fort Moss?
Fort Negro.
Oh, okay.
But just look at their garments. I'm trying to make a picture to you guys. None of them look the same, but they all know who they are. So if we got somebody over here saying he a Christian and this one saying he's Kemetic and this one is saying he's Islam, those are just ideas. That don't have nothing to do about who they are as a people and what they up against in reality. Stop letting silly things divide us. Your clothes, how you view the universe and all that shouldn't divide us from being able to eat a meal at the table together. Just go in the room with the people you kick it with after. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. I feel, damn, I got a headache, man. But yeah, man.
And that's the cause of that removal act. Remember what I was telling you about the Cimarroons? You just got Haiti and you about to take Florida?
Mm-hmm.
That's too much power. And then you got Georgia right there. I mean, where's all the slaves being shipped into? Charleston?
One Florida Keys, Louisiana at one point in time that they call Louisiana Florida Keys.
Man, they was all fighting over. There's a time when the French was trying to get their hands on it. Yeah. So all that plays into this. Hence why you see the brother right there at by the cannon dressed like a buccaneer.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Anybody got anything in the chat? Any questions in the chat? I hope that was informative for someone. Explain some things that they might didn't understand.
You know, it's gonna be one or two to have something to say about it, though. You know, this Native American thing is getting out of hand. Like, we in a real identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
We Jews, Hebrews. We think black people are Muslims. Some people say black people are everything, everywhere at the same time. It's gonna always be somebody to say something. But yeah, this was a good bill.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we always gonna have a little foolishness, man. I'm glad I ain't see it. I'm glad I ain't see it. But man, it come with the territory. Let me look and see. What? And y'all please like the show. Like the show, man. Thumbs up the video, man. Even if you didn't appreciate the information, respond, thumb it down. Thumb it down. We normally, whether I'm on Mossi or on Kofi Piesie TV, we always get a thumbs down. I don't know. I think that's somebody that's traveling from Mossi back to Kofi Piesie TV that don't like Shawn. So we normally have a thumb. I'm talking about damn near every video. I don't care if he doing something or I'm doing something. We got a thumb. We got one thumbs down. Now somebody got the thumb, and it's all good. I mean, we ain't tripping. We ain't tripping. I don't care if we got more thumbs down than more likes. Let me know somebody looked at it
and seen it, you know what I'm saying? So if you appreciate it, thumb it up. If you don't appreciate it, I still appreciate it one way or another. If you thumb it down, I appreciate you taking your time to look at it. You might disagree with it. And you know, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? You thumbs it down, it's cool. I ain't gonna get mad. You know, I'm not gonna get mad, you know. So please like the show. Huh?
Thumb it down. I said it, and at least if you thumb it down, respond with the points that you disagree with.
Yeah.
You know, let us know if it's something you disagree with, or respectfully though,
Yeah.
and we can build on that.
Right. Right. Yep. That's it. And that's how you do it, man. That's how you do it, man. So, you know, again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. To Kofi Piesie TV. I was like I said, I did this presentation was put together and inspired by the conversation that me and my dad had and the picture that I seen of my great grandmother for the first time. Um, so I just said I put something together. I was eventually supposed to do my Poro Society presentation. I forgot the name of it. It's a long name, something Poro Society. But I'm gonna put that on hold, and maybe I'll come back next week. Well, I'll do it next week. Come back next week and do that presentation on Mossi, and then I got another one on the Akbani Society I'll be doing, and then after I drop the Akbani Society, I'll be dropping my new article, Secret Societies in Africa and Their Purpose. Wanted to drop it next week, but I may not drop it due to some more reading I want to get done, and if I get it done in time, get the reading done, I'll finish the article, which I may not even add information from those two articles to I'm reading to my article, citing them or whatever. I just some information that I'm curious about that I need a little bit more understanding on. So if so maybe the article will drop again. I mean, may drop the week after next. So again, it's called Secret Society in Africa and its purposes. So I'll be explaining the purposes of these secret societies in Africa. I'll also be comparing it to a Freemasonry as well. I'm a Freemason, so I'll be talking about Freemasonry in the beginning of the article and explaining my journey through Freemasonry for maybe 15 years now. I've been active for 13. I was active for 13, unactive for 2 years. I'm unactive. I'm no longer in the Freemasonry Lodge. I'm no longer active in a chapter lodge, which because I am a Royal Lodge Mason as well. I'm no longer active in the commandery, no longer, which is a nice temple. I'm no longer active in the consistory degree, which is the 32nd and 33rd degree, sublime prince of the royal secret. I'm no longer active in a shrine, which is a shriner. I'm also a shriner. So I've been active in those for 13 years, unactive for 2 years. So I explain that journey, and you will see some of the comparisons and the similarities when I start talking about some of these secret societies in Africa, you know, and their purposes, what are their purposes are in these secret societies, which are good purposes, you know what I'm saying? So be on the lookout for that. And if you hadn't went and checked out the article I put out a few weeks ago, misunderstanding, ignorance about African traditional religions, and how it's attacked by Western society and our own unstudy. Please go to Kofi Piesie written compositions.word.press and get that presentation. I have that in the description where I have the whole blog site at the bottom of the description. I also have Shawn's the memoirs of Mutu. Am I saying that right, Shawn? Memoirs of Mutu.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have his in there.
At the description that below, I also have Brother Ben's website where you can check out his articles, other information he may have, articles from Mossi Warrior Clan at the bottom of the description as well. Please go support. Please subscribe to Mossi Warrior Clan, Kofi Piesie TV, Real Black Atheists on Fire, Seshew Medew, Netcher, Amon Ra Squad, NBK. These are the platforms that I know that you are going to get some accurate information. The people that's presenting and those on the panel is well respected, with good behavior, have good moral ethics about themselves as well. So go check out those platforms. Those are powerful platforms that I recommend to everybody. Again, Mossi Warrior Clan, Kofi Piesie TV, Seshew Medew, Netcher, The Real Black Atheists on Fire, New Black Knowledge. That's the NBK channel. So go follow those channels. Please subscribe. Please support. Anybody on the panel got anything, man, for shut down the program?
It's good to see you, brother, still kicking knowledge.
Yes, sir. I'm happy to have you on the panel, man. I thought you had done moved to another country, man.
No, man.
Yeah, we've been missing you, T'Challa.
Yeah.
And you know I got something to say, Kofi. Where's our Black African power at?
Black African power, family.
I think them what's their real name? The Heraquoks? No, that's not them. The natives that crossed the Bering Strait, they must have used that echo to break that damn ice down.
They must have. But yeah, man, good seeing you too, though, T'Challa, man. We've been missing you, man. We've been asking about you, man. I've been thinking about you too, though. And thinking about you. So on that note, hold on, let me go back in here and see if anybody got any last thing. Anybody got anything too? I don't want to miss anything on the comment. I hadn't really been looking in the comment. But if anybody don't have anything, man, I'm finna end it, man. Again, peace to everybody in the chat. Peace to Sister Sophie, which is Miss Trismus in the chat. Peace to Brother Rand, Sarah. Peace, Brother Omar Reed, Mr. Lewis, Franco. Peace, Brother Marcel, Hotel. Brother Zane. Peace to Brother Zane. I know Julanda was in here earlier. She's in class, but peace to my good sister Julanda. Shanetta Summers, peace. And whoever else that is in the chat, that Black Lion Supreme, D, Centavo, peace, brother. And whoever else in the chat, man. Peace to y'all, peace for y'all. Thanks for the support, man. Y'all could have been doing anything else with y'all time, but y'all, y'all took a little bit of y'all time to rock out, because I know time is very valuable. I know my time is valuable, and it's very important to me. So I appreciate, man, when people come on and listen to what we have to say for an hour or 2 hours or however long we may be on, man. We really appreciate that, man. And we'll see y'all next time, man. Again, I'll keep saying, please support. Please subscribe. This is your first time to Kofi Piesie TV. Please go subscribe to the channel now. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of the presentation. If you missed the presentation from last week, that brother Sutekh, but brother Sutekh did on reptiles in Africa. That was part 2. Go check out that one. If you missed part 1, go check out part 1 first, and then go check out part 2. He is a part of the Kofi Piesie TV family and affiliates research team. So please support that brother. check out as his numerous things, as well as the other brothers on the planet. T'Challa Bangara is also Kofi Piesie family and affiliate, and he's a part of the Kofi Piesie research team. Brother Eni Herit, Shawn, Khalfani, Basa Nicolo Gullah, Sutekh Ra, Mary Amun, and we had one brother, Asar MK, who Brother Shawn ran off. Always running off people.
I ain't run off nothing, man. The meaning of the place name Kemet ran us off.
Oh
Tell
man.
the truth, man. Quit lying on me. Ain't had nothing to do with me, yo. He just got emotional about the information.
Hey, a peace to brother Asar MK, man. That's my brother, man. Peace, 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 man. Much love. Man, we out.
You should never lose a friend over information. It's retarded.
Yep, that's a fact. That's a fact. I mean, we gonna all disagree. You know what I'm saying? And you'll be a fool to think everybody's gonna agree with what you agree with, man. So, and at some point in time we had to take criticism, you know what I'm saying? We shouldn't run away from criticism. We shouldn't run away from critique. We shouldn't get in our feelings for that. I mean, I've been critiqued before, been criticized before. I mean, it's not gonna stop me from doing it. For the most part, I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it's done in a respectful way. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate it. I'm not gonna attack a person for disagreeing for what I disagree on or whatever. But anyway, man, we out of here, man. We'll see y'all, man. Next week, man, on Monster World Clan channel. And we may come back and do something on Kofi Piesie TV as well, man. Next week, too, man. We want to try to keep stuff in the archive on Kofi Piesie TV, man. We out, man. Black African Power.